Hi, my name is Ryan, and today I'm working on my dad's 1974 Dodge Charger. I inherited this from my dad. He was always intending to pass it on to me. It ran and drove when he parked it, although it was in the middle of a restoration, so a lot of things aren't finished on it. It doesn't run and drive now. It had been sitting for 14 years, and as well, I know when he parked it, he did some stuff to disable it so that it couldn't be stolen. One of which was he took the alternator out, which I've replaced. He removed some of the spark plugs and wires, which I've replaced. I've also lubricated the cylinders with marble mystery oil to make sure that it's not running dry. Did an oil change, and with hot wiring I was able to get it to crank but not start. These old vehicles, you can hot wire them, and hot wiring on these old vehicles is quite easy. All you do is you're going to wire from the positive side of the coil over to the positive side of the battery, and you crank it by shorting that ignition switch back there, and the vehicle will crank, the coil will power up and fire, probably, and then, assuming everything else goes well, the vehicle will come to life. You just won't have the battery charging from the alternator. I tried that, it didn't work. So I tried hot wiring it, that didn't work. I also noticed that when I put a battery in, even with the key, the gauges didn't react, and nothing in the interior reacted. I found the fuse box and found it to be quite rusty, and most of the fuses gone or broken. So today, I'm just going to try to clean up the fuse box, put some new fuses in, and see how far that gets me before I start touching any of the wiring. So on the 74 Charger, the fuse box is located way up under the dashboard. See it right there? You can see most of the fuses are gone. Some were broken when I found it, and a lot of the contacts are really rusted. So I'm just going to take a little bit of 60 grit sandpaper I rolled up and get in there and try to sand those out. There we go, they're all out now. Well, the concerning thing is that none of the colors of my wiring diagram match with anything here, so that's something I'll have to figure out. Anyway, this seems like it should just slide right out, but it doesn't want to move. Like at all. Okay, got that one out. You know, when they say they don't make these like they used to, I say it's probably a good thing. Okay, got those out. I think what I'm going to do is get a container, submerge this in vinegar, try to remove all that corrosion, because sanding it is not really working. It's working a little bit, but like, not really. Other than wires and contacts, there's no electrical components in here anymore, so I'm not super worried about damaging anything. It's basically just metal. You might be wondering why I don't just disconnect this and take the whole thing out. Well, like I said, the colors of my wiring diagram don't quite match, and so I don't know if I'd ever be able to get it back together. And if I can avoid rewiring the whole car, I would like to. Okay, that's got all the contacts except for the top couple, but they aren't that bad, so I'll leave it like that for a while. Okay, so I've pulled these out and did some searching to identify what they are. This one here that broke is a power window relay. And this one here is a horn relay. It might still be usable. I'm not too worried about these right now, so I'll worry about them later. This one, however, is a 30 amp breaker, which protects one side of that fuse box. And so this is kind of important. So as you can see here, it does have continuity across the contacts. So it's probably working. Shouldn't be too hard to replace if it's not, though. So I'm just going to put it back in the car and see what happens. Okay, so I installed a bunch of new fuses. The vinegar thing kind of worked. It didn't work that great, but I did get power back into the dash, which I didn't have before. It still won't crank with the key, although I can hear something happening. Now I was able to turn it over before by using the starter directly and just shorting it out, but I wasn't able to get it to fire at all. I wasn't able to get spark. After doing some digging, I found that this car used to have a seatbelt interlock, and I couldn't find the module, but I did find the wires for it, and I just jumpered them out with a piece of copper wire. I still can't crank it with the key, but now if I crank it from the starter, it will fire. If I put a little bit of fuel in it, it will fire. I'll put a video of that happening. So now the engine does start. I think there's a problem with the starter solenoid, which I'll replace. It's pretty rusty. But next step is to get a radiator in this so I can run this for an actual significant period of time.